Hey creators, it's me, Cynthia of Complete and Utter Mess, Inspired Mixed Media Tutorials. But today, I'm here with a free project for tinypandora.com. Let me tell you all about it. In this video, I'll show you how I made this shabby chic bib necklace using the Tiny Pandora Easy Collar Kit. I've also written a detailed PDF tutorial to accompany in this video. It includes a complete supplies and materials list, and that's available as a free download on www.tinypandora.com. That's enough chatting. Let's start creating. Use a nice sharp craft knife to cut the collar shape from your template. Remember to hold your blade straight up and down. On curves and corners, it's easier to move the template than it is to try to guide your knife. Don't press too hard. You don't have to cut all the way through on the first pass. Work on a self-healing mat like the one that's shown here, or a thick piece of cardboard. This will help you keep control. Use a rigid clay blade to slice the blocks of wasabi lengthwise. Roll over the slices of clay so that they adhere to one another, and get them thin enough to go through the thickest setting of your pasta machine. Roll the clay out on the thickest setting of your pasta machine and then texture it with a craft stick. Don't be afraid to texture it too much. When you're finished texturing the sheet, it should look something like this. Place the Tiny Pandora Easy Collar template over the textured clay and use your craft knife to cut out the collar shape. Be careful not to mar the texture. Once you've cut the collar shape out, be sure to keep the scraps. You'll use them later. Place the cutout collar on your metal pan or bowl. Press the clay into the pan or bowl and make sure that there's no air bubbles. But be careful not to mar your texture too much. Use the medium style and detail tool to smooth out the edges of the collar. Use your craft knife to cut a slit in the end of the collar. Then carefully insert the spoon bail into the slit. You'll want to do this on both sides. Once the spoon bails are inserted into the slits, you may have to retexture them. Use a 2-inch circle cutter to cut a section from the collar. You can center the circle or offset it. Remove the section that you cut out with the 2-inch cutter, and then use the same cutter to remove about a 1/4 inch of clay on either side of the collar. Once again, use the 2-inch cutter to cut a circle from the textured scrap clay. Place the textured 2-inch circle in the center of the 2 collar pieces. Then use a 1-inch cutter to cut a circle in the textured circle. This looks better if it's offset. Neaten the edges of the circles and then cure the piece tented at 275 for 45 minutes. Once the pieces have cured and cooled, stain them. Work on one piece of the collar at a time. Completely coat them with dark green paint. Then immediately wipe most of the paint off with a paper towel. Then spray the piece with alcohol. The alcohol allows the paint to flow into all the crevices. Then immediately wipe it off again with the paper towel. Repeat this for all 3 pieces of the collar and then allow them to dry thoroughly. When the stain is dry, use yellow paint and a stencil brush or stiff brush to dry brush each piece. To dry brush, dip the brush in the yellow paint and then wipe most of it off on a paper towel. Then lightly brush the piece. Dry brushing will only hit the raised areas of the design. Staining and dry brushing really bring out the details of your textures. Once the pieces have been dry brushed, coat the sides with some liquid clay. You can use a brush or just put the clay right on your fingertip. Rub it along the sides and then put the pieces aside for 5 minutes to allow the liquid clay to set up. Roll some bronze clay out at a medium thin setting. Then use a strip cutter or a straight blade to cut strips from the bronze clay. Press the strips along the edges of all of the pieces of the collar. Then use a clay yoke sheet or even a piece of sandpaper to texture the strips. Use a rigid blade to trim off any excess clay. Don't cure the sides. Coat the backs of the pieces with liquid clay and set them aside for the clay to set up. Roll out the gold clay at a medium setting and use the Sculpey Style and Detail tool to texture the gold sheet. In this example, both the large and the medium Style and Detail tool were used. Again, don't be afraid to texture too much. Drape the gold sheet over the cake pan. There will be some wrinkles. Just try to push them to the edge. Place the pieces of the collar onto the gold sheet and press down firmly. It's easiest to start with one side of the collar and then place the middle piece. Finally, place the other side. Make sure the gold is completely covering the backs of all the pieces of the collar. Use a craft knife to trim away the excess gold. Use a clay smoother or the Style and Detail tool to blend the seams. If necessary, touch up the sides with your texture sheet. Roll out a quarter package of bronze clay. Cover it with plastic wrap and cut out a circle with a 1/2-inch circle cutter. Press the bronze circle into the cutout circle on the pendant and then cure on the pan tented for 45 minutes at 275. Dry brush the edges of the collar with dark brown paint. The last step is to attach the chain and findings included with the kit to the spoonbills. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to visit www.tinypandora.com for your free downloadable companion PDF.